Hello once again everyone, back for another video. This time once again we're talking about Iwata. Nintendo president says the company wasn't cornered into smartphone backtrack. Yet you're using the term backtrack. So anyway, Nintendo president Satoru Iwata has gone on record to say that the company wasn't cornered when it decided to branch out to smartphone and tablet development. Many were surprised when Iwata announced that it had teamed up with DNA, I found out later that that's how you pronounce it, to bring its iconic franchises to smartphones and tablets. Iwata says that this wasn't because they had run out of options, rather as a result of a changing world regarding how many... Man, I can't talk. Regarding how people consume video games. You make it sound like video games are food. You don't consume a video game. Video games consume you. But let me just stop right here. It wasn't that you were necessarily cornered, Nintendo, in the sense that you ran out of ideas, but you were cornered by another party, your investors. We all know that the reason this happened was because investors were hounding your asses over and over and over again. You always said no, you always said no, you always said no, and then eventually they twisted your arm a little too much and you bitched out. It's as simple as that. You finally gave in and you gave the investors what they wanted to hear. That's why you're doing the smartphone and iPad stuff, is because of the investors. But anyway, he says a variety of media have written that Nintendo is cornered a number of times, but I do not think we are cornered at all. He argued, needless to say, we are also aware that a company can deal with the rapidly changing world. It will face decline, but I would like to emphasize here that our alliance with DNA is not the result of the lack of better options for a cornered company. Before I continue, there's actually one thing that I thought of that hit me the other day, and I think I finally realized why Nintendo is doing this smartphone crap. And does it really change my overall opinion that it's a bad decision? Not really. But let me just give you real quickly what I feel might be the actual kind of behind the curtains peek at what I think Nintendo's trying to pull here. I could be wrong, but if I'm not, it would make sense, although when I say it, you're going to realize that's a big risk. So, it's not that Nintendo wanted to go to smartphones and iPads, because they've said numerous times before, no, we would not be Nintendo if we did that. And your whole point about, smartphones are where the massive amount of consumers is. That is true. And we know for a fact consumers don't want anything, or the casual consumers don't want anything to do with video game consoles right now. So, the thought that came to me was maybe Nintendo is doing this not for long-term purposes, but strictly just to kind of cast, what's the word? Think of like a subliminal message, basically. That's what I feel like these smartphone things are going to be. They're going to be subliminal messages to implant into the consumers, the casual consumers who get these free-to-play games, or apps, because they're not fucking games, on their smartphones. And a few years down the line, when these casual consumers no longer are fancied with smartphones and tablets, because that's going to happen, they're going to have in their mind that they had fun with these, Nintendo things, whether they were a project, whether they were a game, whether they were an app, whether they were whatever on their smartphones or iPads. And I think Nintendo's plan is that this smartphone movement is really for next generation, for when they come out, because they also mentioned that NX console, remember, which I still think is the next handheld, but my point is, when the next home console and next handheld come out, I think Nintendo is trying to subliminally message these casual buffoons with this smartphone crap, so that when they get bored with the smartphone and iPad stuff, by next generation, they're going to remember the fun, or what they think is, or what they classify as fun on smartphones and iPads, and they're going to come back to the Nintendo side of gaming in video games with consoles. That's what I think Nintendo's going for. It's a bit of a risk, but if it works, then they could see the success of the Wii again, if they manage to subliminally get all of the casuals to come back next gen. But If this doesn't work and the casuals still don't want anything to do with consoles by next gen, then this whole smartphone movement and iPad crap was a complete and utter waste of time that will have accomplished nothing but wasting some of Nintendo's time. But anyway, let's kind of get back on track. We kind of got way off track there. Let's get back on track here with this. When I first met with DNA president and CEO Mr. Oh, I'm going to butcher this guy's name, Moriyasu, I started to wonder if there was anything we could work on together. After that, the more we discussed, the more I realized that DNA knew so many things that Nintendo did not. Mr. Moriyasu even said that DNA did not mind remaining in the background as long as it could collaborate with Nintendo, and I came to realize that this could be a very productive opportunity, as in comparison to what Nintendo might have been able to achieve by itself. Now, I will say, there is one benefit to this partnership that I did not touch on in that other video where I said, it's the end of Nintendo and everything. And this doesn't change the fact that I'm still against this. But DNA here is very good with online networks, and stuff like that, making online features type thing. I don't know how I would phrase that. So, the one thing that could end up being a benefit, especially with the NX, if DNA is somewhat involved with that, is if Nintendo's having them, like they say here, in the background, if they are the ones that Nintendo gets to make the online and its features on the next type of Nintendo console, that could end up being a good thing. Maybe DNA would be smart enough to do some kind of voice chat. Who knows? Who knows? Probably not, because Nintendo would be like, no, 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 we're not letting you do that. Anyway, again, I'm getting sidetracked. Let's get back on topic here. This is why I just said that this is not a decision made out of a lack of options. In fact, it's a lack of, you being tired of hearing your investors being bitchy. In fact, Nintendo has received a number of proposals from a variety of companies. Among them, Nintendo has proactively chosen DNA. We have finally found a clear way to achieve a win-win relationship both for the dedicated video game and smart device business by deploying Nintendo IP raised in dedicated video game dedicated video game systems to smart devices, Iwata said, implying that a smartphone strategy was previously rejected only because Nintendo was yet to identify a satisfactory solution. Which, again, is just bullshit because Iwata said in 2011, if Nintendo did this, they would cease to be Nintendo. Another thing is collaborating with a powerful partner. DNA instead of one company having to do everything, this partnership will enable us to not assign an excessive number of development staff to areas where weakness exists. As a result, will help us avoid disturbances to our software development for dedicated video game systems. We have found an answer, which I didn't even know we had any disturbances to our software development for dedicated video game systems. But anyway, we have found an answer to creating an advantageous situation for both sides by letting more people know about Nintendo IP and bridging the gap between these two platforms. Again, kind of hints at what I was saying, that maybe this is about, planning for the next generation and trying to just use smartphones as a tool to kind of forcibly steer without it being, overly abundant of their true motives of trying to force these casuals kind of towards the gaming console side again. And what happens if this forces them going back to PlayStation or Xbox? Then that would be a huge blow up in your face, Nintendo. You mentioned that I explained today You mentioned that what I explained today sounded different from what we have said in the past. Please understand, fuck that saying, that I had been hoping to come up with this sort of solution, and I was finally able to talk about the whole picture today because various prospects we had been considering and working on have come together as we had hoped, so I personally feel very comfortable today. But that still doesn't change the fact, Iwata, that you had said before that if Nintendo does this, Nintendo ceases to be Nintendo. As for your criticism that the decision is late, I think that whether it is late or not will be decided by what we produce in the coming years, and it could rather be described as the best timing. My personal view is that the time is ripe, as many factors like various encounters with people, the ways our internal discussions have progressed, and the ideas we have generated through that process occurred simultaneously. We will do our best to prove that our decision was made at the right time. And I'm still going to tell you straight up, I don't fucking think that that's going to happen. I think this is going to end up best case scenario being a complete waste of time, where it doesn't hurt you too bad, it was just a waste of fucking time. But, time will tell. I'm just glad, like I've said before in 2 other videos now, that Miyamoto wants nothing to do with this. That he is fine and perfectly passionate about doing the hardware side of the Nintendo, which is, Wii U, 3DS, and actual Nintendo consoles. That is where he should be, that is where Nintendo should be, and that will do it for this video. I'm Original Blood Ice. Stay tuned, more videos coming soon, as always.